entonces a continuar con el PowerPoint, ¿ok? Vamos a comenzar de esa manera, ¿ya? Para cambiar la rutina. Siempre comienzo yo y después el video vamos a comenzar, dice aquí. Dice the King and Han Dynasty. Vamos a ver, ya la hemos visto. Vamos a repasar estas dinastías.
The Qin dynasty, some linguists say, is the origin of the Indo-Aryan word China. Qin was transliterated to Sina and from there morphed into China. But the Qin, important as their name may well have been, fell to the Han, widely felt to be the true ancestors of the modern-day Chinese. It's time for 2 more dynasties. It's time for its history. Ni hao, my name's Guy, and welcome to the next chapter in our history of China. The Shang and Zhao dynasties presided over kingdoms that were about as far back as reliable records go, records that were, in fact, written by later Chinese historians when civilization expanded out from its cradle in the Yellow River Valley and evolved into empires. The Qin began the age of empire in China, exemplified most notably by the Great Wall they constructed from east to west along the country's northern frontiers. They wanted to improve protection against the age-old threat of nomadic invaders from the Eurasian steppe, and of course for NASA to have a waymark for their spacecraft several centuries on. Ambitious and bent on expanding and consolidating territory, the Qin ushered in a new era of military tactics that called for much larger armies. The soldiers came from the fields. Armed with pikes and increasingly crossbows too, they were now at the heart of every territorial adventure. But these agrarian workers were also an integral part of the large labour force that the Qin needed not only to build the Great Wall, but also to expand its infrastructure. Roads were one such example, and the carts that travelled along them were to have predefined axle lengths so that their wheels would run smoothly in the ruts. The new legalist bureaucracy that oversaw conscription and forced labour and conceived of the dynasty's great projects also standardised currency, weights and measures. It introduced the uniform writing system. Sensible moves these all were, but they belay an unsavoury totalitarianism. The Qin wanted to erase all traces of previous peoples, burning books and burying scholars. But the Han dynasty that followed produced some of China's most eminent early historians. We assume that they worked from documents and records rather than hearsay, so it's fair to say that the Qin, though comprehensive in their bureaucracy, were less thorough in their erasure of the past. Qin emperors, in the true spirit of totalitarianism, were also paranoid. The first, Qin Shi Huang, was really the embodiment of the dynasty. He endured 3 assassination attempts, but became obsessed with immortality. When he died, his son was just as mad and much more inept. He insisted on policies and projects that were neither workable nor affordable, and all China revolted. It's an oft-heard expression of despair. Why don't we learn from the past? It would seem that Emperor Gaozu, who declared the new Han dynasty, had taken wise note of the heavy-handed actions of the failed Qin. His administration revolved initially around a central government and a number of semi-autonomous kingdoms. Gaozu began an era of great expansion that saw the Han grow to the point where it had contact with the Roman Empire and made the Silk Road a trade highway from the Mediterranean to the Manchuria. The cost of this was extreme, however, and the only way to fund it was through nationalization of industry and heavy taxation. Taking control of private enterprise and claiming a large share of income have never been popular policies. But salt and iron, 2 major primary sectors, were government-owned until the later Han period. Such an ambitious government inspired great industrial innovation. The Han used belt drive technology in textile manufacturing, fans for air conditioning, and crank handles for driving machinery. There was some particularly wacky work done too. An odometer cart that used a series of banging drums and gongs to declare distances, and the first documented use of anesthesia in China. Physician Huao Tuo made a concoction out of wine and, would you believe it, cannabis, also known as weed. Ganja. Any other ideas? Write them in the comments below. Behind the spirit of inquiry and invention, relations between the princes of the kingdoms and the central government boiled. There were also tensions between the princes themselves. One particularly heated match of Liu Bu, a board game, resulted in the death of Liu Zhuan, a crown prince. It was 154 BC, and the then Han Emperor's advisor suggested it was time for a crackdown. Jing cut down the size of the principalities and withdrew devolved privileges. It led to rebellion, but one that only lasted 3 months before being quashed. It wasn't just the noblemen who were flighty. There was the Yellow Turban Rebellion in the later Han period, breaking out in 184 AD and lasting 21 years. It was the peasants' response to hardship. Agricultural yields had been poor, high taxes, and a government widely regarded as corrupt. These were exactly the same circumstances that led to Republican rebellions in Europe centuries later, and most notably in the case of the French Revolution in 1789. During the 600 years of the Han Dynasty, there was a brief interregnum. After Wu, the seventh leader of the dynasty, there was a series of emperors related to a woman called Wang Zhengjun, something of a grand dame of royal reproduction. Her nephew, Wang Mang, was the troublemaker. Standing in for the natural successor in the lineage, who was too young to serve when the imperial baton was passed on to him, Mang claimed that the divine mandate of heaven called for a new dynasty. Mang was apparently well-meaning, and like any wise politician new to the game, introduced a number of radical reforms to win favour with his subjects. He outlawed slavery. He nationalised land and redistributed it among households. It was a progressive move. He might have lasted longer had natural disaster in the form of major floods not turned the tables against him, allowing Emperor Guangwu to restore Han power in AD 25. The Han would rule for the following 200 years, but not without continuous rebellion from all classes and kingdoms. China got ambitious as it entered the Common Era. Emperors dreamed of huge territories, which they attained, but then lost almost as quickly. Then, as now, people were tribal. Arbitrary borders on maps angered them, and they resented becoming subjects to ever more powerful forces. The Qin left warning enough, but the Han repeated their mistakes over and over again. This period in Chinese history is still remarkable for its great inventions and great minds, some of which we'll explore as part of this series. Until then, check out our video on the Shang and the Zhao people by clicking here on the right-hand side of your screen. What do you think? Are humans missing a trick by not learning from their errors of their forefathers? Or do we need to make the same mistakes over and over again before sense becomes part of our psyche? Leave your comments and questions below, and don't forget to subscribe to It's History to receive all our videos. In our next episode in the China series, we'll look at how China's neighbours began upping their game and taking revenge for centuries of invasion and suppression. Watch out for Mongolia. I'm Guy. Thanks for popping by. It's time to say goodbye. See you next time.
Okay, I'm trying to go back and oh my god, I can play another video. Oh. What is happening here, guys? I have some problems out here. Okay, let's watch this one. I know this one is gonna be interesting for you guys, this video.
It's a vast pottery army which is slowly being unearthed from the tomb where it's lain for more than 2,000 years. At one time, when a Chinese ruler died
I worked in this site for many years, for decades. Yeah. So these warriors are all life-sized, like real soldiers. Also, they have different facial features. You can tell from their hairstyle, their we call headgears, and they can tell their different ranks. The Terracotta warriors was found accidentally. One day, a group of farmers dug in well here, and they find some pieces of the pottery. They also find the head of the Terracotta warriors, and the archaeological team came to this area and they start to dig. Originally in ancient China, like 3,000 years ago, they believed the afterlife. When the elites died, like king or noble people, they died, and they normally buried their servants with them, so the human sacrifice, and people start criticize the human sacrifice. So they probably use the terracotta figures as a substitute. when we discovered in pit 3, very surprisingly, we find well-preserved colors. When we lift one terracotta warrior, terracotta bodies, so the very bright colors stick on the soil, very bright red and pink, blue, green. The other colors are natural, like natural, probably mineral or come from some plants, but the purple is chemical from chemical reaction, so that kind of artificial. So these kind of chemical reaction, so only find in China. That's really revolutionary, that kind of technology in 2,000 years ago in Qin time. That was really fascinating part of my archaeological career. I feel I'm lucky. Also, I feel I have a responsibility that's unique in China and also unique in the world. Even now I walk in, I still feel very impressed. Now I walk in, I still feel.
Okay, so these were the warriors from terracotta. Yeah, and these warriors were created during the Qin dynasty. That's the dynasty that we haven't studied. So anyway, I just wanted to show you to you guys, because all of this is history, and then you may find any documents, or maybe you could visit China and see and know more about all these dynasties. Okay, so let's continue what we were studying last week. Okay, we were studying about different achievements. Okay, we placed here different achievements that during the Han Dynasty were brought. Over here, there is a list of different things that they were discovered or they invented during those times. Painting, sculpture, poetry, obviously music. Sorry. Some instruments, drum, bells, flute, art, different instruments that were built during or invented during those years. Garden designs, calligraphy, and other things. Okay. They also talks about the literature during those days. They talk about some poetries based on the Han China. Now it's poetry, and also it says handwriters also produce important work of history. One historian by the name of Sima King wrote the Shiji, which was a complete history of all the dynasties. Shiji is a document that narrates all the dynasties in China, the 3 dynasties, through the early Han Dynasty. Okay. The Shiji, also called record of grand historian or record of scribes, describe more than 2,000 years of Chinese culture. Okay, this passage describes a farmer named Wu Shi who wanted to help some poor people who are being made to relocate other region in China. Now, others invention over here. A Chinese invented one item that we use every day, that is the paper. They invented the paper, okay, the Chinese, during the Han Dynasty. Also, another innovation in science included the sundial. The sundial is this over here, el reloj de sol. And seismographer, that is like this. Sismógrafo es como que registra los movimientos telúricos de la Tierra, que como terremotos, estas cosas. Él registraba eso, este aparato que está aquí. Y este era como un reloj, pero un reloj solar, que es sundial. The San Heng, the inventor of the seismographer, was respected astronomer, mathematics, engineer, and painter during the East Han Dynasty. Now, also during that dynasty, it was invented the acupuncture, la acupuntura. ¿Tú han visto que la persona se pone una especie de una aguja aquí dentro en ciertas áreas? Bueno, eso se llama acupuntura. Another hand innovation, acupuncture. Improved medicines. Many hand inventions in science and medical are still used today. Sí, la acupuntura se usa todavía. También se inventaron otro tipo de instrumentos para la agricultura, como vemos esto que está, chicos, esto que está aquí. También dice, another item that increased in production during the Han Dynasty was the silk, o sea, la seda. So for siglos, Chinese women had known the complicated method needed to raise silkworm, o sea, cómo cultivar la seda de las wind the silk threads of their cocoon, and then prepare the thread for dyeing and weaving. The Chinese were determined to keep their producer to making silk secrets. Revealing this secret was punishable by death. O sea, eso era un secreto. El cómo producir y crear la seda era un secreto, y si alguien lo revelaba, podía resultar la muerte, como dice aquí. ¿Ya? Así que era un secreto indio. También en aquella época también se desarrolló mucho lo que es el budismo, en la época del Han, el budismo, y aquí vemos, miren, una figura de un Buda grande, una escultura enorme allá. Dice, this giant Buddha statue in China is among the largest in the world. It was carved, o sea, fue esculpido from a hill, en una montaña, and looks down over mid the place of 3 rivers. Mirando a los 3 ríos, dice. ¿Ok? El impacto de China, dice, el impacto de China en el budismo, y esto ya lo habíamos visto, así que no lo vamos a ver más. The Buddhism introduced to China is an example of diffusion. Diffusion es la mezcla cuando entran otras culturas dentro de la nuestra. Elements of Chinese culture change in response to the new faith. For example, scholars translate Buddhism texts into Chinese. Esa es la difusión. Traducir del budismo al Chinese. Eso se llama difusión. O sea que entra, esa cultura entra dentro de otra. ¿A través de qué? De los textos traducidos. Many Chinese became Buddhists, monks and nuns y monjas. Artists craved towering states and Buddhas into mountain walls. Vemos cómo el budismo también entró a toda China durante la época de la dinastía Han. Muy bien, y hasta aquí terminamos todo lo referente a la dinastía Han. Brevemente hemos ido por todas las dinastías en China, la dinastía Song, la dinastía Qing, y la última que vamos a ver, la dinastía Shang, chicos. Acuérdense, remember you need to complete all the vocabularies assigned, and also the assessment question assignment. It has to be written in your notebook, guys, okay? Everything has to be written in your notebook. Do you have any other question, guys? Do you have other questions? Do you have questions? Questions, Isabella? No? No question? No? No? Okay. Okay, chicos, then if we don't have any other questions, then see you next week. Have a nice week. Behave, wash your hands, and see you next Monday. Bye-bye. Take care. Saludos. Chao. Chao.